What's up guys, RGT85 here, and this is going to be kind of a special video. A lot of you guys probably don't know this, but I was actually a GameStop employee at one time. I was an acting assistant manager, and I was there for about 10 months. So from middle of 2005 to the middle of 2006, I was one of the guys there at GameStop that you would see coming in to get your games. So I thought it'd be fun to kind of talk about my experiences working there, what I saw, and maybe how things have changed. You know, obviously things are different from 10 years ago. So this is more of a history lesson and kind of just my personal story about working there. If you currently work there, let me know in the comments below. Let me know if any of these things have changed. But yeah, without any further ado, I'm just gonna get into my story. So I was working as a pharmacy technician. I was 20 years old. And I didn't dislike it, but I didn't really like it. And GameStop was coming to town. We didn't have a GameStop. The nearest video game store was about 40 miles away. We would always have to drive to a town called Fayetteville to go to video game stores. So when a local GameStop was coming here, I was very excited. It was right near my apartment and I really wanted to work there because I've always been passionate about video games. So I remember driving by a million times waiting for them to put up a sign about applications, and when they finally put up a thing that you could, turn in applications, I of course was like the first one. And they called me 2 days later and I met them at the store. I met the district manager at the time. His name was Steve, and Steve kind of just talked to me about the store, talked to me about stuff, and then he wanted me to sell him a game. They had already started setting up stuff. I was being brought in as a cashier. And so I remember trying to sell him a game that was kind of obscure. I want to say it was like Katamari Damacy or something like that. And he had no clue what I was talking about. So me being the type of person I am, I kind of asked him about his gaming background, and he really didn't have one. He knew about Halo, and that was the only thing he could tell me about. So I had to sell him a copy of Halo. And that kind of bothered me, honestly, because I understand that, upper management is a position that's more on the business end, but I also feel that you should have a strong hold of what you're doing in your business. If you're in the pizza business, you should know about pizza and pizza trends. If you're in the video game business, same thing. So that always kind of bothered me about him. He was very, white bread, very boring, just kind of a guy that I wouldn't like to talk to, but of course I had to because I'm trying to get a job here. So I did a good job selling him the game, and they ended up giving me the job. And I started as a cashier, like I said, making pretty much minimum wage at the time. I was making less than I did at the pharmacy, but I didn't care because I was surrounded by video games and that was what I was doing. And the first few weeks were pretty fun. You're just kind of training, you're learning everything, you're learning what you can and can't do. I had a really cool manager at the time. He was a super swell guy, terrible manager, but he was a good dude. So I became friends with him, and we would have fun. We would have after hours tournaments at the store with a bunch of our friends, playing Smash or Halo 2 or, setting up different Xboxes on all the TVs we had. And it was really, really fun. It was fun meeting with, representatives coming in the store, like the Nintendo rep. I was always amazed when she came in, and she would always give me like a little free goodie. And it was fun. I was working a lot of day shifts, so I was alone most of the time, but there were night shifts that I was working as well. And like I said, it was a fun time for the first probably 2 or 3 months. I really enjoyed it. And then we still didn't have an assistant manager at the time. We were a brand new store. We had been open for 3 months. We didn't have an assistant manager. So essentially they made me acting assistant manager because the district manager, Steve, did not want to put me in the assistant manager position. I don't really know why. I guess because I was kind of doing the assistant manager job. I was opening, I was a key closer. I was making schedules and whatnot. And they never wanted to give me that pay raise. And that always kind of bothered me, but I didn't care. I was young, I was naive at the time. And it did weigh on me, but I always thought, my chance will come, don't worry about it. So one of the big things that I hated about that place was pre-order stuff. You had to push pre-orders and you had to push these stupid reward cards. It wasn't the power-up rewards cards, it was named something different, but there was such a strong emphasis on that. And the warranty information, you can break this game and, pay $3 and you can get another copy and stuff. And that always, I don't know, it always felt kind of scummy. Because the thing of it is, if you didn't get enough pre-orders in a day, if you didn't get enough people signed up for a rewards card, you would get in trouble. You could potentially get written up, you could potentially lose your job because they felt that every customer should be getting these things. And I never necessarily understood why, because not a lot of customers are Neanderthals. We're not taking our games and throwing them up in the air and breaking them. So why was this such a strong emphasis? It's pretty much because of the business side of things. You know, there was money to be made that was easy money. It's just like the whole new versus pre-owned game. Every time you scanned a new game in the system, it would tell you if you had a pre-owned copy so that you could push that pre-owned copy, because they probably paid, you know, half of what they paid for the new copy, and it would give them more profit. Some people didn't want that, some people did want that, that was fine, but they really made you push for that. And I never really cared for that. Another thing I didn't like was the fact that I was pretty much putting in 60-hour to 65-hour work weeks, and really I was only getting like 5 hours of overtime. I mean, there would be times where I would come in at 9 in the morning and leave at midnight, because part of that was because I was naive and stupid, and you know, I was agreeing to do that just because I loved video games and I wanted the store to succeed. And part of it was because my manager at the time was not a really good manager. He was a good friend, but he wasn't a good manager. So he kind of took advantage of me. That was fine. I actually spoke up about it and I never heard anything. So, you know, a lot of lost wages there, but you know, it is what it is. The problems really started for me in January of 2006, which is when I started doing conference calls and whatnot. And so I would be on the conference calls with all the other managers in the district and the district manager. And I remember in January 2006, the big game that was coming out that month was 25 to Life on the PS2 and Xbox. And that was what they wanted us to get pre-orders on. It was something like they wanted us to get 10 to 15 pre-orders a day. And I've always been a hardhead, and looking at that game, I could tell it was gonna be garbage. And I spoke up, and when they asked me how many pre-orders I had, I said I had one. And they said, how many am I gonna have at the end of the day? I said, probably one. And they were like, well, why? I was like, because the game looks terrible. And they're like, well, how do you know that? You don't know that. And I was like, well, Steve, you don't really know video games, so you don't know that it's gonna be good. As someone who is pretty in tune with what's going on, I could tell that this is gonna be a very mediocre game, and it's not going to be a fun experience. And he said, well, what difference does it make if someone wants to pre-order it? And I said, well, there's the whole thing that these people come to me as an expert in the video game industry for, you know, a lot of, not necessarily the smart consumers, but the average consumers, the moms, the dads, the little kids. They look at you like an expert, and if you recommend a game that sucks, you're gonna lose value in their eyes. They're not gonna listen to you. So in the long run, it's better to be more open and honest with people. And of course I got shut off, and you know, they just made me try to get pre-orders for 25 to Life. I think I ended up getting 4 or something. I did get a reprimand, I did get a write-up. It's pretty silly, but you know, whatever. That was the first time I was really angry, because I didn't like deceiving people that I saw as, you know, people who trusted me. And of course at this time, the Xbox 360 was really popular. So you had people coming in, bringing in their collections of PS2, GameCube, Xbox games, and getting pennies. And you always had, you know, upset parents. Well, why, you know, you sell this game for $20. Why are you giving my son $4 for it? And it was always hard to explain that. I mean, obviously it's simple business. You know, if you don't want the $4, you know, you don't have to accept the $4, but it always kind of sucked to have to, you know, explain that to people. And a lot of people just didn't understand it, especially when you're in an area where GameStop is brand new. So people are expecting to get, you know, retail prices for their games. You know, their Madden 05, they wanted, you know, $30 for it. Why can't I get $30 for it? But that experience always kind of, that always sucked. And I remember towards the end of my run, I came into work one day, and someone who was helping us when the store first was from a different district, he was helping us when the store was first getting set up, was actually in the store. And I said, oh, where's, my normal manager's name was Billy. I said, where's Billy? Oh, he got fired. What? Yeah, Billy got fired. And so he took me in the back and we talked about it. When the store first opened, we did a $200 gift card giveaway as like a midnight launch event, because we had a midnight opening. And Billy never gave that card to anyone. He actually used it for himself, and they found out about it, and he got terminated. So I was kind of upset about that, but I did really like this other guy from the other district, because he actually lived close to me. He would just commute to Fayetteville because he liked the area. And, you know, he was a good dude. So I thought, you know, okay, this is the time when I'm gonna become assistant manager. This is my time to shine. And so the district manager called me and he said, you know, do you want to be an assistant manager? And I said, yes. And he said, do you want to be a general manager? I said, today, no. And he said, well, why not? And I said, because I'm 21 years old. I'm not really, you know, I'm not really well versed in retail. I've only been doing this, you know, I was a pharmacy tech for a long time. I haven't been doing this that long. I would like to, you know, be an assistant manager for a while and, you know, learn more of the, you know, get the actual title, learn everything I can, and then become a general manager. And GameStop didn't like that. GameStop doesn't, at that time, didn't like people being general managers for like more than 6 months. They wanted you to get your own store, which never made sense to me because there's not enough stores to make everyone who's an assistant manager a general manager, especially when you have general managers already. So that always kind of, you know, pissed me off. And then I remember hearing rumors that they were gonna bring in a different general manager and have a new assistant manager in the store, and that my position was going to go back to cashier. And that really stung, but I thought I could impress people. I thought I can, you know, do what I had to do to get that job. And then came Doomsday, is what I like to call it. So I had a regular customer who would come in and trade me in games, and there would always be loose discs. I always assumed like he just robbed a friend or something, and he always wanted cash. He never wanted store credit. I never saw the kid buy a game. And I would mention it to people, and at the time, the trade-in policy was very, very lax. Like literally, you didn't have to do anything. I think all you had to do was sign a piece of paper. You didn't have to give a government. You didn't have to do anything like that. So I brought it up to my manager. I said, look, this dude comes in a lot, man. I think he's just ganking games from people. And he was like, well, there's nothing we can really do about it. Just give him his money and be on the way. So he came in one day and he actually asked me about something. He asked if I had something in the back. I think it was a system, a used 360 or something. Went back there, came out, didn't have anything. He was like, all right, well, I'll come check it later. I was the only one working in the store at the time. It was morning. And he came back later that day with a stack of games, and I traded him in, gave him his cash, went on his way. I think my shift ended at like 4:30 that day. And I got a phone call from my manager at about 5:30, and he said, hey, can you come by the store? And I said, playing a game, what's up? I didn't live far from the store. He was like, no, I really need you to come by the store. So I went by the store, and he took me in the back, and Steve, the district manager, was on the phone trying to fire me. And so I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? So evidently when the guy had asked me to go to the back and check something, he had reached around the counter and taken a handful of used PS2 games, because we would keep them just in the little slips right behind the counter, so that it was easy to get when somebody brought you up a game case. And like I said, I was working by myself at the time. And he said, well, do you know this guy? I said, yes, the dude I talked to you about. He's the guy who always comes in, you know, this is what he looks like. And he said, he reached around and grabbed a bunch of games from you, and then you gave him cash for them. I said, what? And so he showed me the games that he had traded in, and sure enough, they were alphabetical from A to D. All of those games were A to D, but they were mixed up a little bit. So he was like, didn't you notice this? And I was like, no, I mean, it's busy. You were accepting in trade-ins. And so Steve wanted to fire me. My manager at the time got it to where I would just lose my keys. I'd become a part-timer at 20 hours a week, and I wouldn't become assistant manager. And that was it for me. I had had enough of the corporate bullshit of GameStop, and I just handed him my keys, and I said, Alec, his name was Alec, I said, Alec, it's been fun, buddy. You know, we're still friends for sure, but I'm out. I'm sorry if this puts you in a bind, but you know, I'm done. I'm not gonna be treated like this. And that was it. That was my last day at GameStop. So overall, GameStop it's a company, it's a business, and businesses run on business practices, you know, sales, percentages. It's not necessarily about the people, it's about the bottom line. You are very expendable at GameStop. You are not special at GameStop as an employee. You know, they feel that they can replace anyone at any time. You're not really allowed to express personality. You weren't allowed to be yourself. I wanted to set up things like picks of my own games, recommendations and stuff. They never let you do stuff like that at that time. This may have changed now, but it sucked. Honestly, it actually soured me on video games for quite a while. I had stopped kind of collecting, and it was just a draining experience. Like, it was something I couldn't necessarily believe, that a company would do this to its own employees and have all these hidden agendas and want you to push all these products just for bottom dollar, you know, to make money and stuff. But I mean, it's the nature of the beast, man. So that's pretty much it. That's my story at GameStop. Like I said, this is from 9-10 years ago. Obviously, some of this information is gonna be dated now, but my personal experience, my channel, I thought you guys might enjoy it. Let me know what you think of the story. Let me know if you've ever worked at GameStop, ever experienced anything like this before, if you currently work there, what it's like now. Leave me some comments down below. Make sure you like this video, and thank you for subscribing and listening to my story. I'll see you guys next time. Later.